For churchgoers, Sunday mornings just aren't the same. Places of worship can now open, but what will a new normal look like? I'm joined by the Venerable Clarke of St. Thomas Anglican Church. Reverend Clarke, what will St. Thomas look like? Will they be opening their doors anytime soon?
Donna, the House of Bishops has directed all Anglican churches in the province of Ontario that will not be opening our doors for public worship until at least the beginning of September. They've had conversations with epidemiologists. They've looked at other situations where worship services have proven to be problematical in providing the start of a super spreader event. And given that our congregation's age generally is older, or as I like to say, a little more mature, these are vulnerable people, and so we want to be absolutely sure. The phrase the bishops are using is an overabundance of caution. And so in their wisdom, and I certainly share that, we won't be opening our doors for public worship until September.
Wow. Now, your wife, Nancy, is a United Church minister. Has her parish made the same decision?
Similarly, the United Church, her church, has made a similar decision not to open right away. In part, it's taking some time to figure out exactly what we need to do that we open up safely for our parishioners, and again, also for the wider community that we serve. We don't just live in a church, we go from there back out into the community. And we don't want to be harbingers of any difficulties, certainly with this virus. So it's getting all those little things in place and working out what has to be done.
Got it. Yeah, and there's a lot of detail. And you're right, you're dealing with an older population. Are all the churches in Kingston making these same kind of decisions, or are some of them going to be opening sooner?
Some churches have already opened, I understand. They've moved forward. Some of the free evangelical churches have opened up. Roman Catholic churches, I saw in the Kingston Whig Standard at St. Mary's, has resumed services. And again, everybody, I suspect, have had to make some adjustments.
Right.
Social spacing inside the worship space, shortened services to limit potential exposure. For those churches, such as Roman Catholics, who have Mass, again, how are they receiving communion is probably a little different than the way they received it back certainly in February or early March.
Yeah, everything has changed, absolutely. Now, the Sunday morning service, it's only a part of what you do. There are so many other parts to your job, weddings, funerals, christenings, and how have you been managing those kinds of things, you and Nancy?
Well, again, it's people say, when can we get back to church? The right way to phrase that question is, when can we get back together for worship? We are church, and we're still functioning as a church. Many churches went online, either live stream or pre-record their services, as I do, which has led to a little bit of fun, certainly a lot of challenges, but we've actually seen potentially an increase in attendance during this time. The number of hits that I'm getting on YouTube, Facebook, and our parish webpage tells me how many computers are watching. Doesn't tell me how many people are watching, but those numbers have increased over the typical Sunday attendance.
That is interesting.
I have watchers from Australia, South Africa, parts of the United States, Europe.
Wow. You must give a heck of a sermon.
Well, I'd like to think so, but I'm sure there'd be a few who would disagree. In part, it's a lot of my parishioners are forwarding the the link to their friends and family overseas.
That's so interesting. Now, I wonder if September, maybe it's something to think about, that you might have people there or in the pews, but you might record it anyway. Wow, you might be onto something here.
The bishops have, and we've already given considerable thought to, we'll continue this on, in part for those parishioners who may have health issues or are a little worried about coming back to church right away. There's also the question of how many people are we going to be able to have in our churches come September? I mean, the government has said it's 30% of your building space. So what does that actually mean? Is that 30% of my worship space or the whole building? And those are two different things. I have a hall, I have an annex with offices and washrooms. Is that all a part of my building space, or do I just a sanctuary, which makes it a lot smaller? It will mean smaller numbers. And so I'll have to adapt again, like my Roman Catholic brothers and sisters, shorter services and maybe more services on a Sunday and through the week. That will allow people to still come in. We'll work it out.
You know, we're just proving how adaptable we are with going through this whole thing. Have you done any weddings, funerals, christenings in the last 3 months?
I haven't done any baptisms or christenings, so I haven't had to go the super soaker route that one sees on Facebook. And if my bishop is watching, I wouldn't do that. I have had a number of funerals, and it's been challenging. They have all been live streamed under the current rules of the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. There can only be 10 family members present, plus funeral home staff. And unfortunately, I'm not considered funeral home staff. So if I'm present, it actually means only 9 family members can be present. And, you know, we've had some hiccups with that, but for the most part, the funeral home staff have been incredibly accommodating and helpful to families. And on 1 or 2 occasions, it's been, okay, the first group, come over to the graveside. I'll do the service. Take a moment, have that little private goodbye. Okay, you leave the cemetery, and the next group of family come in, and I'll repeat, so that everyone feels they've had a chance to have that, to give mom, dad, grandma, grandpa a good goodbye. So we adapt.
It makes me think that I think one of the toughest things about these last 3 months are when someone does have a death in the family, and all the protocols that we put in place, the things you go and the hugs and the you know, the being close that you want from your friends when you're going through that. And so how are you counseling people who are grieving in solitude? What can you say, or what could any of us say to people who say, wow, you know, mom passed away and, you know, there was hardly a funeral, nobody could come, and what can the rest of us say, and what do you say?
I say to the family and to the friends, certainly who are listening on the live stream of the service, we have to be more intentional about touching base again and staying in contact a little while longer. And again, don't be afraid to be a little bit creative, but safe. I recently had the privilege of taking a brief service for a parishioner of mine, Dale Hodgins, a retired firefighter and paramedic. And I was very pleased that the following day, family, friends, colleagues had a march past his house. They were led by a piper, you know, 10 at a time, safely distanced. He piped them down the street, piped them back, and then along came the next group of people, piped in and piped out. So there are ways of still loving and caring for each other during this time.
Yeah. We just have to be creative and thoughtful about all of this. So come September, what do you think the new normal will look like? Any ideas yet? Have you thought about anything that you're going to be putting in place?
I've already have begun putting some things into place, because again, there's a lots to think about until you bump up into it. Oh, right. What about this? So at St. Thomas's, I have put away all the books because we don't want people touching books. I am fortunate. I have a screening system, so we use PowerPoint, and people will still be able to see the words and follow along on the screens. We'll go in and we'll tape out where people can sit. We'll have to think about how we're going to handle music. It can be played. There still seems to be a bit of ongoing debate as to should you sing or not? Should the congregation sing? Maybe a soloist might be all right. Issues around ventilation. Right now, in the good weather, in September, I could have all my windows opened and we'll be fine. When the weather gets colder, we probably will have to say to people for a while, bring your mask. And we'll have masks there for those who might be visitors or have simply forgotten. And you're going to have to wear this during the service. But, bring your mask, decorate it, have a little fun with it. And we'll see how it goes. I know a lot of my people are already hinting that maybe the first Sunday we're back, could we wear pajamas? Because we're kind of used to watching you now in our pajamas. This will be problematic, certainly for me. I only wear shorts, and that's not an image my people need to see. There ought to be some awe and mystery around the clergy. I'll be wearing my robes, which some people say look like pajamas, but we'll work it out.
You'll work it out. There's a lot of stuff I never would have thought of, and thanks for filling us in. And I hope September rolls around and everything works out for you. And please say hello to Nancy.
I will. Thank you very much. And everyone out there, stay safe, stay well. Watch us online or get to your church, but don't forget, God's wherever we are. So even alone, we're not really alone. Take care.
Well said. Thanks.